Today on The Grid, we're talking about gear and specifically what to learn on your camera next while you're stuck inside. Erik, the real man, Canahan, Rocket Man Kuna is here. We're taking your questions and comments. We're staying the heck away from each other. We've got some giveaways, and it all starts in just 60 seconds. Grid is brought to you by Tamron. Check out their 28 to 75 millimeter f2.8 lens. It's for Sony full frame mirrorless. It's awesome. Go to tamron-usa.com.
And ProPhoto, the light shaping company. Check out the ProPhoto B1X, powered all the right places. Go to prophoto.com/US.
And Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should too. Go to platypod.com. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Grid. Scott's here with Erik, the real man, Canahan, Rocket Man Kuna.
Hey Scott, from over there.
Hey Erik, over there. Yeah. Oh my God, that's a little crooked there. There we go. How y'all doing? Well, we're here in Florida. We just got the word today from the governor that they are doing a mandatory 30-day lockdown. So next week we'll be streaming from our houses. So I guess I'll be setting up a area to stream and all that. And but it will be Erik and I next week, next Wednesday, doing that. Today we are talking about some gear. So we put together a list of things that while we're kind of stuck inside that we can learn on our camera. So this is very specific, like what technique should I be working on or learning? Because you know how we have those things that you know in the back of your mind. I know I should probably learn that technique. I should probably know what that does on my camera, but you haven't done it. Now's a great time to do that, especially for the next 30 days in Florida or New York.
Right, well, and anywhere, yeah, anywhere right now.
California.
But I think, a big thing about this is, these are the times too when we can kind of practice these techniques and kind of perfect them. So that way when we do get out, because we're going to get on the other side of this, we'll get back out, we'll be making images again out in public, and we want to have those things so locked down that we know, hey, here's how I would do this, or here's how I would do that, where it becomes second nature. And those are those things that once you start doing it a while and practicing with it, you can really become that. It kind of fades away. You don't really have to worry about the camera settings as much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very much true. So that's what we're going to cover today. We've got a list. Erik and I both have our own list. We'll be going through those. Just a couple quick things. You guys know that we helped launch the Platypod, which was a Kickstarter-like explosion. Well, you can still order it because it's due now. It won't be available probably till March 2021, but you can get yours first by pre-ordering it. Now, you'll go, but I thought the Kickstarter campaign is over. It is, but you can still go to Indiegogo save money. You can still order it because it's due now. You had to get it available probably till March, but still it's pretty good. They have two models and they both have ARC compatible clamps. Now, it's $275 for the Elite version. So the Elite version is the one that has the electronic leveling in it. You can get it for $275, which is still $50. You're saving about $50 on each one. $225 for the Ergo model, which is if you don't need the electronics, then you can get that one. Yeah. And let's see what else. Of course, there are limited quantities. The deal won't be there forever, so go get it right now. Go to platypod.com. It will take you over to the Indiegogo page that you see there. And again, it's not as good a deal as they had on the Kickstarter, but look how much they raised there. Oh, $537,000. So yeah, if you missed out on that, at least you're not locked out, and lockout's a big word. So go ahead and check it out. You can get a deal on those, and they're awesome. I actually got a chance to take one out and spend a couple of days shooting with it, and I really enjoyed it. It was, well, I mean, as soon as it comes out, that's what I'll be using. So that's my new ball head. Yeah. So I'm excited about it. All right, let's see. Next Monday, we've got a webcast that we want you to come and check out. It's going to be at 11 a.m. I don't know where we're going to be doing it. Maybe I'll be doing it at my house. Maybe we're doing it here.
Yeah.
Somehow or another, we're going to be broadcasting.
Do it from the house. And we've already got it we've already got it figured out. We just got to do some practicing now.
Okay, yeah, so we'll have to do that.
Because we're going to do the practicing we're going to tell you guys about today. You know, that's what we do. We practice.
We practice and then we do it.
Yes, a lot of times with all these events that we do, we practice beforehand, especially, you know, your seminars and all that.
Yeah.
Conferences.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's practice beforehand.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yep.
So that's coming next Monday at 11 a.m. Now, these are webcasts that we normally do for our members, but we are doing them for everybody now. So if you have any friends that want to come, we want to help everybody we can through this period. So come and check it out Monday at 11 a.m. And where do they go? Kelby1live.com?
Well, so they go to kelby1.com/live webcast. The better thing is to just follow us on Facebook.
Get a direct link.
Kelby on Facebook. If you're watching either that or Kelby1 on Facebook, YouTube, all those things, because that way you'll just get a notification when it goes live. So just follow us on one of those social channels.
Sweet. All right. So that's, and our webcast is, it's going to be a project-based thing where I'm going to tell you to do some stuff the day before. And then we're all going to meet together, and then we're going to go through this thing. And I think it's gonna rock a lot of people's world because it's not about my photography. It's about your photography, and you're going to look at images and make some decisions. And we're going to go through this whole process. I think.
Now, were you going to do that on Friday on your blog?
I'm not sure how I'm going to lead up to this.
Yeah.
I'm still working out the details because we just came up with this.
Another reason to follow us on social.
Follow us on social. You can follow me, Scott Kelby, on Twitter. Scott Kelby, or S. Kelby on Facebook. And a lot of you I know are probably watching today on Facebook. All right. So I do want to one more shout out. My wife Calibra, very excited to see. She is featured in Digital Photographer UK magazine. So they did a thing about her iPhone photography, and the new issue comes out like now-ish. But I saw a little tiny thing, and I saw one of her great pictures in there. I was like, woo! So anyway, very excited.
Yeah, and you can. She has a class on Kelby1 on the iPhone photography.
Yeah, she has a great class on Kelby1.
Yeah.
I can't tell how many people when I'm out doing my seminar will say, "Man, I watched Calibra's class on the iPhone, and it changed everything for me." So she's got a great class on it. Alrighty, so our topic today is what to learn on your camera while you're stuck inside. I'm going to give you the first one here, and then we'll ping back and forth. All right, what I would say to do is, first off, I want to tell you that most of the time I'm shooting in aperture priority mode, right? So I choose my f-stop, and then my camera chooses my shutter speed. That's the only decision it makes. But not having to mess with your shutter speed is a good thing. You're worried about something else, right? So that's a good thing. That's number one. Number two is, so when you're shooting in aperture priority, remember, your camera's going to choose your shutter speed. So you choose an f-stop. Let's say that you chose f4. And for whatever scene you're shooting at, you're aiming at, your camera goes, okay, based on what I see here, I think your shutter speed should be this. And you look at the image on the back of your camera. What if you don't agree with what your camera chose? Not necessarily like what exact shutter speed, like, oh, I don't like 1/500th of a second. No, I mean, you look at the picture and you go, I think it's not bright enough, or I think it's too dark. You just think, I know that the camera made the decision, I just don't agree with it. I think it should be brighter. What can you do? That's the whole function behind exposure compensation. Literally, it allows you to make the picture brighter or darker by moving a dial. Now, I don't know which make or model of camera you have, but depending on which one you have, that's what exposure compensation does. So here's what your process would be. I take a picture. I look on the back of the camera. Oh, that's not bright enough. I move the dial. I take another shot. Oh, a little brighter. That's where I want it. Boom. Done. That's it. That's exposure compensation. It's an easy way for you to look at the photo on the back of your camera and decide, do I want it brighter or do I want it darker? Now, here's where this becomes particularly important. You have a setting inside your camera that should definitely be on. It is called your highlight warning or a clipping warning, depending on your make and model of camera. What that tells you is the most important thing exposure-wise that we could possibly know. Has something gotten so bright in this picture I just took that there will be no detail in some areas? In other words, there'll be no pixels, no detail, If I printed it on a piece of paper, there would be nothing in that spot, just an empty spot.
It's just recording black or it's recording white.
Right, yeah. So like, where would this happen? Clouds. You lose detail in clouds. Wedding dress. Can you imagine losing the whites in a wedding dress? It happens. I've seen it dozens of times. So it can be anything that is a bright color gets so bright that you lose detail. Well, with the exposure compensation and the highlight warning turned on, here's how my situation changes. I take a picture. I look at the back of my camera, and if something is damaged, if my pixels are dead, there will be a light blinking where it's at. Literally like a strobe light going, this is clipped. I know right then I can darken my exposure a little bit, take it again. Oh, I'm still getting a little bit of clipping, and okay, there we go. I can darken it so my clipping goes away. So that's the one thing that if we let it clip really bad, we may not be able to fix it in post-production. Now, there will be some times where you have a little bit of clipping. If you see a little bit of clipping, I'm like, because I know that I can just pull the highlight slider back in Lightroom or in Camera Raw. It fixed just like that. Also, ready for the big, this is the one that you go, what? So you're shooting in RAW, right? Of course you are. You're shooting in RAW. You look on the back of the camera and you see it flashing, you see the blinking thing. You're like, uh-oh. But then later, you open up the image and there is no highlight. There's no, because you have a highlight warning built in Lightroom too. It's in the top right corner of the histogram. You click it, there's nothing there. You're like, wait a minute, I remember this thing was clipping. Why isn't it clipping now? Because JPEG images clip more than RAW images do. The RAW image actually has a wider tonal range. So what happens is, you're looking on the back of the camera. Well, even though, this is really weird, even though you're shooting in RAW, your camera shows you on the back of the camera the JPEG. So while it's flashing and saying this part's blown out, if it's just a little bit, it probably is not. You're just seeing the JPEG preview. The JPEG is clipping, but the actual RAW that you shot isn't. You open it in Lightroom and you're like, where's the clipping? It wasn't really clipping. So
here's
that's kind of a
here's an
weird
example.
gotcha.
Here's an example of what Scott's talking about. So if you look, maybe you can zoom in.
Oh yeah, you can see
to
it
the
right
other
there.
one. Yeah, you see that's actually a shot that I took the rocket. You see it clipping there, but that's in the raw file doesn't have that. I'm right at that edge, and that's where you get to like something on my screen. That's I think the same picture, or that's the same picture as the picture on my screen, right there.
Yeah, that's not clipping.
I mean, you've got to just kind of like get to that edge where you're not clipping, and that's a very important. I mean, this is like a if you can figure this one out, it will change your photography a lot.
Yes, it will. And literally, just being able to have a knob that makes things brighter or darker, that's really nice.
Yeah.
So it does double duty. Number one, I think the most important thing it does is just let you make it brighter or darker. I need my image brighter or darker. That's number one. Number two is it allows you to repair your file if you do have clipping. If you've blown out the highlights, you can just darken it, take another shot, maybe darken it another time. By the way, every time you move it, by default, it moves down 1/3 of a stop. So it gets 1/3 of a stop brighter or 1/3 of a stop darker. So that's exposure compensation. That's one of the things that so few people that I talk to that are shooting aperture, I go, do you use exposure compensation? They're like, what's that? This is the time where you learn what that is. So this is something that you can practice at home. You can take some china out, some white plates, shoot them. They'll blow out probably. Put enough light on them, they'll blow out. Then you can go, oh, wait a minute, I know what to do. Turn my highlight clipping on, my warning on first, and that should always be on your camera. I don't look at the histogram, but I do look at that highlight warning. And then number two is kick it back a third, take it again, kick it back a third. Okay, it's gone. That's exposure compensation. That's the number one thing that I would tell somebody. If you're not using exposure compensation and you're shooting an aperture priority, that's something to learn. Easy to practice right there in your house. Mr. Kuna, you're up.
Yeah, and that's a huge one. I mean, I just think that that's one where it's good we let off with that, because that's if you can master that and spend the time now to master that, that would be a huge step forward.
Hey, can I point something out too?
Yeah, yeah.
This is not having to do with exposure compensation.
Yeah.
Do you notice how much bigger our images are on the screen this week?
Yeah, it's like we're balanced. Yeah.
So look, we got nice big squares, and Erik and I were like way separated. Now we're physically way separated. He's over on a whole different set. I can see him over there. He's like a little tiny Erik. It's like a little baby Erik. baby Erik. No, he's not that far
But
away.
yeah,
20 feet.
awesome topic, and yeah, I love the idea of just like shoot plates, shoot something bright, like the laptop there that Scott's got. We're probably getting close to clipping on some of your laptop there.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
pretty
you
bright,
have to,
right?
You have to kind of
And
balance
it would
that
clip.
stuff.
See that right
Yeah,
there where
like
the Apple
there,
logo
the
is?
Apple
That
logo
would be
is
clipping.
gone.
That's clipping
So-
big time. But you could bring that detail back.
Yep.
Here, I want to put it right halfway in it.
And now
So there you go. So
There
it's
you
like
go.
it's designed to be.
So the next thing, I mean, definitely when we're on this time where we're kind of stuck inside, we've got that. One other things that we can do is really focus on cleaning our gear, and especially cleaning our sensors. Now, this is one thing that you've got to have the right equipment to make sure you clean your sensors. The big thing with cleaning your sensors that I have to have is a cleaning kit. So actually, you can see that right before this started. It was actually the middle of last month. I went and bought a new cleaning kit for my cameras, and basically what it is, it's these swabs that will allow you to clean your sensor and get in there and actually clean your sensor safely. And it also comes with a solution if you really have something on there that you really need to get off. But what this will allow you to do is to clean those little spots off your sensor that we all get over time and built up over time to really clean our sensors. The other thing that we can do at this point is, it's kind of clean out any dust, anything that's in the sensors. And if you're a Kelby One member, there's a great class on this. So if you go over, Moose Peterson did a whole breakdown on sensor cleaning, camera care, goes through all the devices, all the stuff you need to really clean your camera, make sure it's all spotless. And when you get into your camera, so if we get into like the menus here, so one of the things you'll have to do with your camera is actually put it in a sensor cleaning mode. So I'm reading it this way, and I went right by it. So it's in these metros. So sensor cleaning. So see there you got the sensor cleaning. And then there's a auto cleaning, which I have enabled. So that's just basically, it charges the sensor when it's closed, and so it kind of like pushes the dust off if it can. But sometimes you need to clean manually, and that's where you go to clean manually. When I push that, what's going to actually happen is it's going to tell me, hey, do you really want to clean this manually? So what you're doing is you're pressing OK. That's going to flip up the mirror out of the way, open the sensor so you can actually take those swabs and clean your sensor. So it's definitely a thing that we could do right now, because that's something that definitely happens. We always get those dust on our sensor, little specks. If you have anything like that, that's where it's coming from.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Kuna.
Yep.
We're going to take a short one. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the next ones. We've got more things.
Yep.
Stuff you need to know about your camera. I got a good one coming up, and we'll be covering that right after the break. Don't go away.
Is the tripod dead? Sure, a tripod works for basic shots, but who wants to be basic? You don't need basic, you need blockbuster, and that's a job for a Platypod. The Platypod is your go-anywhere, do-anything flat tripod base. Its compact design helps you discover unique angles that you could never reach with a typical tripod. So, whether you're bringing up baby, driving Miss Daisy, or with your beasts of the Southern Wild, you can capture big-budget footage and stills for a fraction of the time and money. So go ahead, shoot the next Rocky or Birdman. Or on the waterfront, the Platypod is equipped to grip uneven surfaces and hang from just about anything. When tripods go low, the Platypod goes lower. Its flat base reaches the lowest possible angle, resulting in truly inventive shots that can't be replicated with traditional equipment. And if you feel like adding a dramatic overhead angle, the Platypod has you covered. Just strap it or screw it in, and you're ready to go within minutes. The Platypod is constructed from aircraft-grade aluminum and titanium. Yeah, the stuff Air Force One is made of. So it's durable enough to travel with you from Chinatown to Casablanca and everywhere in between. If you only take the tripod, the story ends. You wake up the next morning with nothing but basic footage. Or you could take the Platypod to a museum, or on an elevator, or strap it to a tree, or hanging on a bench at church, or put it on the ground and get incredible blockbuster footage. Who are we kidding? You should totally take the Platypod. The tripod is not dead, but it needs a sidekick. The Platypod.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
All right, we're back.
Hey, we're back. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was making some comments there on the face page. Anyway, welcome back, Scott Kelby here with Erik, the Rocket Man Kuna, and a couple things.
We got people joining us all around the world.
Oh, good. Yeah. Give us some shout outs there. Who
we got Lori joining us from California. We got George from London in the UK. We got Murray from Brampton. We got John saying hello for the internet pals. Richard from Michigan. Gail from New York, Finger Lakes, upstate New York. And then Christian from Austria. We got Susan from Ohio. We got Ed from Myrtle Beach. We got Rob Sylvan in the house. We got a bunch of people in there.
Terry White's in the house.
Terry White's in there too.
Terry White's in the house.
So yeah, we got all over the place joining us. So.
All right, great. Also, wanted to mention we got some giveaways. So we're doing our giveaways a little bit different today. We've got 2 books, and you can choose which one you want. We're going to give away up to 5 copies of the ebook version of this, so you get them immediately. So you can either choose the flash book or the portrait book. So we're going to choose 5 names. You can choose which book you want, either of my books, Flash, Natural Light.
So just tell us, hey, I want an ebook.
Yeah, all you have to do is just leave us a comment and just write either Natural Light or Flash, so that way you're entered and we make sure that we send you the right one. So, and Kim, my editor, will take care of making sure you get those. So you'll get those like right away. Giving those away today. We're also giving away a Platypod. Let's give away, what do we got, a Platypod Max? We got a big one, don't we? Yes, we do.
But I'm sure I could find one.
We're giving away a Platypod Max. I think you'll either see a commercial from them or not, but I think you will. Ultra is the small one. We're giving away the big one today. So some lucky person will win a Platypod Max as well. All right, I got a good one for you. So these are those things, those camera things you need to learn next. You need to learn, and I'm going to give you, this is like a tip and a half, okay? You need to learn how to get better color. How do you get better color? Well, honestly, it's going to sound really simplistic when I tell you, but I can't tell you how. I can tell you a few people do this. Don't just use auto white balance. Auto white balance isn't bad, but it's not awesome. It's pretty good. But I see so many images where people look blue, or the color's just funky, or the skin tones don't look quite right, and they're like, well, what do I do? Do I fix it later? And why don't you just fix it in your camera and you don't have to worry about it? I'm going to tell you the entire secret to white balance. Now, it's going to sound simple, but it's on the money, and then I'm going to give you an amazing trick. All right? First is, how do you know what to set the white balance at? Auto's fine in like daylight, walking around outside, yeah, whatever. How do you know? How you like the way my voice cracked? How do you know? I'm going through puberty, it's a weird time. How do you know which white balance to use? Ready? Ready? This is the trick. Look up. If you see clouds, literally go in the menu and change it to cloudy. If you look up and you see tree branches, or an awning, or the roof of a building like sticking out, and you're standing in shade, literally just switch it to shade. It's all you have to do, but so few photographers do it. You need to practice being able to quickly change your white balance to a white balance that fits the situation. If you look up and see the sun, switch it to daylight. If you look up and you see fluorescent lights, you're in an office building, switch it to fluorescent. If you're in a restaurant and you look up and you see regular incandescent lighting you can see in any restaurant, switch your white balance to incandescent. It's that easy. Now, while we're doing that, I think I've got a video I can actually play for you, but I'm going to let Erik do his, and then I'm going to give you my tip. If I can get the video is actually a great representation of it.
Well, go ahead and try to find it. I mean, because I got something. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
That's a great tip, and what's cool about that is when you start getting into it, if you practice that. Well, when I started out, I just did that, but then you actually will get to a point, and you believe me, if you do it enough, where you'll actually be able to dial in your exact Kelvin temperature. You'll look at a room and go, it's 3,600 Kelvin. Oh, the lighting in here is 4,200. You know, it'll be weird because you start training yourself into knowing different lighting settings, especially when we start getting into mixed lighting and stuff like that. But Scott, that's a great tip. You just look up, see what's above you, set your white balance to whatever it is. So,
all right, I found it. I just need 1 second to get ready.
now, one tip on that side is if you're shooting at night, if you actually go to tungsten, that will help with your colors, because there really isn't like a night setting.
Yes.
There isn't a night one.
Great tip, by the way.
Tungsten, and it'll help.
All right, my QuickTime Player crashes every time I start it now. For some reason, it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to launch QuickTime Player 7, which actually works for reasons I cannot begin to understand. Let's go and open it here. And I believe this is the one. Yes. So I'm just going to play the video. I got to connect it here, and you should be able to hear the audio as well. I'm going to make sure my audio is nice and cranking. And hold on, I got to. Yeah, I'm working on it.
He's working on it. We're working on it.
We're working on it. All right, I think.
And
there we go. All right, I'm going to play this video, and this is the trick.
And we'll hope the audio is coming through for you. He's working.
We got audio? I'm asking.
It's a great trick if they can't hear it.
No audio? I can
know.
walk you through it.
I don't know. That's where I'm saying I don't know if we got audio.
All right. Do we have audio?
No.
Oh, well, why don't you tell me we have audio?
So just tell us so we can walk them through it. It's a great tip.
Hey, there's no audio.
I've seen this.
Here, I can walk you through it. I know what I'm doing.
Seminars? Didn't you do that in one of your seminars?
Yeah, okay.
I remember this.
Yeah, it's not an issue. Here we go. I'm going to walk you through it live.
All right, go ahead, play.
Okay, I will, but I got to set it up. This is for situations where it's a mixed lighting situation.
Yep.
Maybe you got natural light and some lights on in the room. You're like, I don't know what, or for whatever reason, your white balance doesn't look right. This will fix it.
Even if you look up and can't decide what is above you,
okay,
this will work.
Here's what it is. So look, on the back of the camera, you're going to turn on live view mode.
Image on the back of the screen.
Oh, come on. What's going on?
It's got audio now.
You have audio now?
Well, anyways.
Here's the audio.
All right, the first step is to turn on live view, and as soon as we do that, of course, you see the image on the back of the screen, and the first thing you see is it's incredibly blue. So you hold the white balance button, and then we're just going to turn the command dial here and go through different settings until we come up with one that looks pretty good. That one doesn't look bad there, and that one's a little bit warmer. I'm going to go back to right there. That's all you have to do. Now, when you're done, close live view, and you've set your white balance, and you're ready to go.
Come on, that's a pretty cool trick. Did you notice I switched back to Nikon?
Yeah.
That's an old video. I didn't switch back. It's an old video. But anyway, I had it on here. I thought it's a pretty cool trick, right?
Yeah, it's a great trick.
And I've used it so many times because
like
every once in a while,
mixed lighting, that is the perfect trick.
Yeah, you'll get in this situation. You're like, this isn't working quite right.
Yeah.
But this does. Anyway, that's my tip. Boom! I dropped the mic.
Yeah, and that's where if you really want to get more dialed in, you can pop up live view. Take it over to that K setting, which is Kelvin, and you can actually just dial in the exact Kelvin temperature if you're that person who needs to have it exact. So
or you're just a nerd.
Yeah.
And you really like nerdy stuff.
I use Kelvin temperatures. What can I say? All right. So next
he's
tip.
A rocket man.
Yeah. Next tip that I have: practice and master back button autofocus.
Yes.
Right? So on the back of your camera here, there's a little button that says AF on. Or, a Nikon, it's the same, isn't it? Like an AF button, right, on a Nikon?
Yeah.
And then actually, if you have a battery grip on,
I think
there is another button right there, right there. So what's cool about the AF button is it's positioned perfectly with your thumb for the shutter button's up here, and your thumb is right here, right there. So you can just push that, and what that's going to do is that's going to activate your autofocus. Now, what you have to do is you got to go into your menu. You have to turn off what's set in your camera is when you push the shutter button down halfway, it's going to automatically start the autofocus. You want to disable that to where the shutter is just the shutter button, and the back here, the autofocus is on the autofocus on. So what that allows you to do is just push the autofocus when you want to focus. And this is great for, I use that for everything. I don't think there's anything, I just have AF Like, do you ever use the shutter press autofocus?
I do,
I
but
don't. Yeah. I
like-
only have it on the push button autofocus
Yeah.
anymore.
you know what it is?
Yeah.
When I'm shooting in the studio, I'm shooting the front button. For everything else, I like the back button.
Yeah, I've got to the.
I don't know
just
why. I
the
can't
back
give you a
button.
good. I can't give you a good
Yeah.
defense.
I just once I learned the push button autofocus, it's just like that changes your
nice.
life. You're just like, this is fine. I just when I need autofocus, I push it.
And by the way, when you are shooting moving objects,
Mm-hmm.
and here's why back button autofocus I think is so amazing. So let's say that you're shooting a bird flying by, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as the bird's going, you're going. Every time you press the shutter, it refocuses. It goes.
Yeah, and it's screwing up sometimes.
It keeps, and it misses sometimes.
It misses.
And it misses, and it doesn't lock on. So what you do is this. Number one, you're going to set your camera to a predictive focus mode, a focus mode that's designed for moving objects.
Yep.
When you buy your camera, it assumes you're going to shoot an apple in a bowl on a table, like stuff that's not moving. But you're going to switch to like a continuous focus mode. So then, when you hit that focus on that bird, it's going to predictively track with it. And the focus isn't going to keep going, if you I just hold it. I hold the button. I hold it down and go, because then I can go click, 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 click. I can shoot as many times as I want, and my focus isn't refocusing every time.
Yeah, and that's what's great about it.
It just focuses and moves right with the bird.
And you're right, Scott. I mean, well, that's what, if it's a moving object,
Yeah.
it really helps. But then
Big time.
I really like it for anything else, because then I know too,
Yes.
with like a landscape, I can hit the button, lock in my focus point, and then when I release it, I know I'm never going to interfere with it with the shutter button. So it's just like I lock my
There's
focus.
all kinds of benefits, but
It's just like I
that's a
lock
big
my
one.
focus. It's just boom.
All right,
Yep.
I've got a really good one. How many of you out there, and be honest, raise your hands. How many of you out there have gone to do a shoot and you did a whole shoot or a half hour or 10 minutes even with the wrong settings? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay. Can I tell you a true story? I'm up in Chicago shooting a Bears game. I think it was Bears versus Packers. And for the first quarter, I'm like, my exposure's all over the place. Something is wrong with my camera. I would shoot and it's darker, and I'd shoot and it's brighter and all. And so I go to some other photographers on the sideline and go, is there something I'm doing wrong in the camera here? I'm turning it off and I'm turning it on, all these things, and it's just, you know what it was? The night before, I'd been shooting HDR bracketed.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
And
That'll
one
do it.
shot's right, and the next shot's too bright, and the next shot's, and I'm like,
what is going on?
and I think I was shooting Nikon back then. I had it set to 5 stops.
Oh boy.
So it was going, it took me forever. And all of a sudden, of course, when you finally realize you've made this horrible mistake. But I've also, I was shooting a band at a restaurant like the night before I was going to do a shoot. The next day, I go out at Monument Valley with my tripod at dawn. What should my ISO have been, Eric?
100.
It was set at 1600 from the
Yep.
night before. You
Yep.
get burned by stuff like
Yep.
this all
All
the
the time.
time.
It
So
is.
the trick I'm about to give you is going to fix that problem, but it's also going to make you more flexible. It's going your problems with wrong settings go away.
Ooh, I know what you're going to say.
Yep, and
Yep.
it's going to change the way you shoot. If you do travel, if you do landscapes, it's going to make your life so much simpler, and you will do things that you weren't going to do before because now it's so easy. It is set up custom modes. So in my camera,
Preach on, brother.
preach on. On my camera, I have 3 settings. My standard walk around, I'm taking shots in the city, walking around shot, right? So it could be for street photography, it could be for travel. I set it up for travel because I'm not really doing a lot of street, but it's set up for travel. Like I'm just walking and shooting. But if all of a sudden I go, ooh, I want to do a long exposure, I put up my tripod or my Platypod, I just switch to the next mode, long exposure mode. All my settings are in place. All of my settings are there. It's automatically set to a 2-second self-timer. It's automatically set to long exposure mode. It's got all the little settings that I need to be exactly right are set. If I want to do an HDR shot, not to look like funky HDR, to look regular but have an expanded tonal range, I switch to my third one. I switch to my HDR. So I can go from regular to long exposure to HDR. It's only 3 only have 3 custom settings. And I can be absolutely certain when I switch to HDR, my whole camera's set up. It's set up to exposure bracketing. It's set up to a 2-second timer. All of these things are perfectly set every single time. All I have to do is choose one of those 3. I cannot tell you how much better it will make your life, because you're not going to make any mistake. You're not going to have to remember. Because how many times you're like, I switched my f-stop, I switched my exposure bracketing, I did all these things, but I left it at f2.8. So my exposure bracketing wasn't really working, because it can't bracket enough when you're wide open. So it's that stuff that burns you, and it's so easy. Get the settings you want in for something, and you go and just say, save it as a custom mode. That's it. That's it. You save it as a custom mode. It's not hard.
Where this really saves you is when you allow other people to borrow your cameras too.
Oh yeah.
Because then what'll happen is, and this is where I got burnt once, was, you know, I traveled somewhere to take great shots. I'm up in Canada, and I'd let somebody borrow my camera, and then that first day of shooting, we came home came back, and I was looking, I was like, why am I shooting in JPEG? I never shoot in JPEG. I shot the whole afternoon in JPEG because somebody else borrowed my camera and set it to JPEG.
Yep.
So if I would have just gone to my preset and just loaded it, I wouldn't have that problem.
Yeah, every once in a while someone borrows one of my cameras to shoot rockets, and all the
do.
settings are for rocket. But all I do is
that's
switch
what I got 3 settings. I got night rocket, day rocket, and walking around photos.
Walking around photos. Boom, you just switch it and your stuff's
Yeah, you
back.
put on that night rocket shot. That'll
Guys,
really ruin your
this is one to set up, and once you do it once, you're going to say to yourself, as
so
everyone
true.
has, why didn't I do this earlier?
Yep.
This is so easy, and it makes my life so much better as a photographer. Eric, no, it's break time.
Yeah, it's break time.
It's so break time. It's crazy break time. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Kuna's got some ideas. We got books to give away.
We got ideas.
We're practicing social distancing. Our practicing is going well.
Yep.
And
Back button focus. A lot of love for the back button focus.
A lot of love for the back button. All right, folks, we'll be right
Loving
back.
the back button.
Coming back with more stuff.
I'm Erik Kuna, and we're here at Cape Canaveral, Florida, to bring you this class on rocket photography. I'm so excited about this class because this is something I'm really passionate about. I really would love to, take you through the process, start to finish, of how we go through planning a rocket shoot, how we go all the way through to the post-production. But not only that, this is something that anybody can do. Yes, we're going to go through and show you press access and how we can shoot remotely on the pad, but I'm going to show you how you can go off-site, shoot rocket streaks, shoot nebulas, shoot telephoto shots that anybody can shoot, all in this class. And we're going to go start to finish through the process. So come check out my new class on kelby1.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
All right, well, we're back, and we got some comments coming in. We got a lot of comments today because of the topics. But one of the comments was talking about, well, why didn't you just shoot in RAW and change the white balance later in Lightroom? And I know there's a couple reasons. One of the main reasons for me is I love to get my white balance as close to perfect in camera. One, it speeds me up because a lot of times I'm doing photojournalism, I'm needing to get it out quicker. But then it also shows you the exact colors. The closer you get to the white balance, hey, what's on the back of my viewfinder is actually what's happening. If it's too far off, you could actually pass that shot and go, it wasn't a great shot because you didn't even nail the white balance. But I mean, you've got there's tons of other ones. I've got a couple more. Yeah.
Number one, moving the white balance slider in Lightroom actually changes the exposure. If you don't think it's true, go look at the histogram the next time you drag the white balance. However, that's not the big reason. That's kind of a minor reason.
It's a major one for me with rockets.
It's a big thing for rockets. But I think the reason why you want to get the white balance right in camera is, number one, it's right, but that's not it. It's because if your white balance looks great, if your image on the back of the camera looks great, it inspires you, it excites you, it gets you going, yeah, this looks great. You should not look at the back of your camera and say to yourself, this doesn't look good, but it will later, hours later, or days later, when I finally get around to fixing the color. Why don't you get the color right now so you look on the back of the camera and you're like, yeah, inspiration. Do not cut out how important inspiration is. When I look on the back of the camera and it looks really, really great, I get really excited. I get jazzed. I get, yeah, let's do this. If I look on the back of the camera and go, it doesn't look that great, but I know I can fix it later. That's the least inspiring thing that can happen to you on a shoot, is to know, well, it doesn't look good now, but it will later. Get it right on the back of your camera. You should look at the back of your camera and get excited like, yes, I'm nailing this. This looks great. Let's keep doing this. Let's do more. Let's get closer. Let's try different lenses. Like, yeah, this is looking so good. It shouldn't be like, yeah, it'll look better later.
And another one for me, it goes back to what you said, the second point, is you actually get a little bit better range when you nail your white balance. So one of the things that, a lot of people I know will do is they'll actually, they'll push their white balances to kind of get the color that they want. And that's the wrong thing to do. You get the white balance exact to where it's white balanced and you've got the proper tone. And then you apply any color grading or color tone after that.
Yes.
People use white balance for like color toning. I don't get that nowadays.
There's other tools that are better for that.
There's so many other tools, and you'll get a better, cleaner image if you have the close to the right white balance. So you want to nail that white balance.
Plus, don't be lame. Don't be that person that says, I didn't get it right in camera, but I can fix it later. There are sometimes legitimate reasons why. Like if you're messing with a light and messing with it, and you know that I can go in with a brush and fix it in 5 seconds, that's one thing. But for the short amount of time it takes you, here's how long it takes you to set your white balance correctly. Cloudy. That's it. Now when you bring in your images, they look right. It doesn't take any longer to get it right in camera than it does to have to do it later.
And you could usually have your white balance set before you get out of the car.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at the weather forecast and know,
cloudy.
It's going to be sunny today. Better put it on sunny.
Daylight. And for flash, if you're shooting in the studio, set it to flash. You can leave it on auto. It's not going to look as good. Set it to flash if you want it to be more accurate. Okay.
So there was a question about what happens when you're using a remote control, so like a remote trigger. Can you use the auto focus when you're doing that? So like I think we're talking about back button focus here. So when you're using a trigger, yes, you can still use the autofocus button, but you could turn the autofocus back on. But again, a lot of times when you're using a trigger, you're usually locked onto something. You're just going to hit the AF on. It's going to focus on what you're doing, and then you're just going to use the trigger to release the shutter. So unless you're wanting to like focus on something while you're using the trigger, and in that case, you could just still push the button when you need to focus. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You had another tip there.
Oh yeah. So this is a good one, especially if you're shooting low light photography, night photography, especially landscapes, travel, that kind of stuff, is using mirror lockup. So that's a big one is, we want to keep our cameras as still. I see people, they want to, they'll spend all this money on a nice tripod, they'll get everything sturdy, and then they're not using mirror lockup. And this is like especially like a big one for me is the moon. If I'm shooting the moon, like just that mirror, when you hit the shutter, it bounces up, right? So like it actually goes up, bounces up, and if that's exposing why it's shaking, you're going to get that little bit of shake. Well, what mirror lockup allows you to do is you go on the back of your camera here, you go to the mirror lockup feature, right? And then you enable it. So what that's going to do at that point, and you can actually see in here in the sensor, let me try to get it in focus. So when I push the button, I'm going to push the shutter button, it just opens the mirror, it basically locks up the mirror. So then next button that I push is actually going to expose it. So I have a 2-second exposure here. So I'm going to push the button, it's going to open up the sensor, and then close it. Yeah. So now instead of that mirror just slamming up, starting your exposure, you're putting the mirror up, letting your camera settle, then pushing the button to expose it. This is a lifesaver when it comes to those low light, night, moon, telephoto where you're trying to do something.
Hey, even just with regular landscapes.
Or just regular landscapes.
You're removing vibration.
Regular landscapes, this will help your landscape photography probably more than most things.
All right, can I add something to this?
Yeah.
Okay, where is the button for mirror lockup on like a mirrorless camera, like a Sony mirrorless or a Canon R series or a Nikon Z series?
Doesn't exist.
Wait for it. If you have a mirrorless camera, there's no mirror.
Yep, that's the point.
This works on Nikons. There's actually a dial. You can actually see a dial called M up to lift on newer Nikons. On Canons, Erik showed you what to do. On Sonys, there is not a mirror lockup control, but when you choose a 2-second timer, it automatically invokes the mirror lockup for you. It does it automatically. Cool. It pops it up, and then when 2 seconds is up, it closes it. So
I would prefer that.
That's a pretty smart one, isn't it?
I would prefer that. Yeah.
So high five to Sony.
Yeah, definitely. So
all right, I've got one.
Most of Sonys are mirrorless now, so.
Yeah, really I mean, Sony makes some,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, but most of them are mirrorless now.
Well, the ones that people are buying.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
Okay, how about this one? So this next one is going to sound simple, but it's a really big thing. It's, again, how to keep from getting burned. You can get burned by bad white balance. You can get burned by bad settings, like not having your settings right. You can also get burned by images that look sharp on your tiny little 3-inch monitor, and then you get back and you open them in computer and you go, oh no, it's soft. So obviously you can check it while you're in the field. You can hit the magnifying glass button. Here's why you don't do that. The reason you don't do that is this. You take a shot and you go, I wonder if this is sharp. I just took a portrait of, let's say, Erik over there. So I got to go and hit zoom, 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 zoom. Oh yeah, it's sharp. Zoom, back out, zoom back out, zoom back out. It's like eight clicks to look at it. This is why I would recommend step 1. Go download the PDF for your camera and put it on your phone. That's step 1. Go get the PDF. You know what's great about PDFs? You can search through a PDF. You can actually do a search and it'll come up. So what we want to do is we want to search for magnification. And what you're going to do is you're going to assign the center button on the back of your camera. You can do this on Nikons, on Canons, on Sonys. You can assign a button on the back of your camera to where when you hit it, it zooms in to 4x. So instead of going like this, click, 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 and then having to go click, 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 back out, it goes like this. Is that image sharp? Yep, it is. And you're done. You'll do 2 clicks. You'll do the click in and click out. It takes just a split second. But if you have to go click, 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 and then back out, click, 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 you just won't do it. But I'm telling you guys, when you think you've got the shot, just pause for a second, hit that center button, zoom in, see if it's sharp, and then zoom back out. And if it's not sharp, of course, take it again. But go find out where you turn off this magnification. And you can use 4x magnification. You can use 8x magnification. You can zoom really crazy in. I use like 4x. Because there's normal, right? Then there's 2, then there's 4, then there's 8, and not even be 12. It's like
you 10.
Get 10. I mean, I'm sorry, you're right, it's 10. So Put it on whatever you're comfortable with, but make sure that you can check if you're shooting portraits, that their eye is sharp. If you're shooting landscapes, that a third of the way into the photo, it's nice and sharp and all. But I'm telling you what, you'll save yourself from getting burned. You'll come up with more sharp shots than you ever have before.
Absolutely.
All right, we only have 9 minutes left.
Yeah, we got to take a break, though.
Really? Didn't we
Yeah.
just take a break?
I know, we got to take another one before the end of the show.
Okay, let's take that break, because when we come back, I want to tell you about something that's coming up tomorrow.
Yep.
Tomorrow, a new...
Hey, I'm Larry Becker, and I just finished a great new class about the brand new powerhouse Nikon D780 camera. This camera is amazing. It's a 24.5 megapixel full frame camera that shoots up to 12 frames per second, and it shoots 1080p HD video at up to 120 frames per second, or you can shoot 4K video with this. The goal of my class is to get you up to speed super fast. We'll go through the camera's features, we'll talk buttons and dials, we'll go through all kinds of settings, and even though we cover tons of stuff, we don't get bogged down in the details. We start off with a fast lesson to get you up to speed so you can start shooting fast. We're going to go through metering and white balance. We cover focusing and the settings that adjust what you get in focus. We'll run through menu settings, and just like all my camera classes, we always finish up with some cool tips and tricks and hidden features. If you've got your own brand new Nikon D780, or you're just thinking about getting one and you want to be a power user, make sure you come by and check out my class exclusively at Kelby One.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.
Make sure you don't miss any episodes of The Grid by subscribing to Apple's podcast app or iTunes. It's free, and we even have a special audio-only version too. So sign up today.
Hey, we're back. Scott Kelby here with Erik Kuna, the Kuna man.
Yeah, I was looking at the comments. I mean, a couple things that came in. Somebody's asking about using a Hoodman loop instead of the magnification.
No, the Hoodman loop. Common misconception, it does not zoom in at all. Zero zoom. It is great at making, when it's bright outside, you put that loop over your monitor, it's like looking at night, but it is not a magnification. I have many Hoodman loops, love them, use them all the time when I'm shooting sports, but I still zoom in to check the sharpness every time. So that does not replace it. Next.
We were talking about the mirror lockup, and I think some people are thinking, well, I use the timer on my camera, or I use a trigger to open it. And it's like that does not bypass that. All that's doing is taking the shake away from you touching the camera. The camera is still locking, or is still opening the mirror. So you have to turn on that mirror lockup in order to push the button, have it go up, then push the button again to expose it. Yeah, even if you're using a timer, even if you're using a trigger,
doesn't matter.
You still have to do that.
Just remember, it is 2 shutter presses. One to lift it,
and
give it a second or so, and then the second one to close it.
Yep.
Okay, we have our winners for the Natural Light Photography book and for the Flash book, thanks to Kim, my editor, Kim Doty. She picked the winners for this and for the other one, so she's very helpful today. For the Natural Light Photography book, the winners, and this is of the ebook, so you'll get these right away: David Dell, Brock Banks, Mike Litke, John Gelderman, and Lisa Kraus. All of you won a copy of this book, and we are going to get that to you if you email Kim at KDOTY, so it looks like KDOTY, KDOTY at kelby1.com, and she will get you your copy. Next is the Flash book goes to Reem Abusif, and I'm sorry, Reem, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Lori Cusack, Brittany Hull, Gail Moser, and Jerry Pless. And for our Platypod Max that we're giving away, congratulations to Barbara Bloodsworth. So Barbara, you just won a Platypod Max, and all of you, thank you for watching the show today, and you're getting your ebooks. And Kim, again, her email address is KDOTY at Kelby1.com. That email address again, KDOTY at Kelby1.com. By the way, while you're there, tell her what a great editor is. I tell her all the time, but she can't hear it enough. Best editor in the world. World today, nobody better. All right. Erik, we only have 4 minutes left. You got one? You get a quick one, and I'll get a quick one.
All right, so I got one here is, if we've got these triggers running around with these timer triggers, or I've been using this one a lot. I use this on all my shoots, but it's a MyOps trigger. It's basically something that allow you to trigger off time lapse, lighting, sound, lasers, any of that. So basically, practicing with these things.
Wait a minute, it triggers off a laser?
Yeah, they actually provide a laser, and when the laser gets broken, it'll fire your trigger.
Oh, so if you're trying to capture an animal,
or
animal
something.
walks by, breaks the laser.
There's tons
beam.
of things you can do, but that's a cool thing about these is when you think about what you can do with these timers, time lapses, delaying shooting. Like say you just don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and you want to just kind of take a shot at a certain point at the night. You could just set these timers, even the cheap ones. You can program them in, you can set the timer, you can hit play, and it will just count down. Now, the MyOps is one that I love. I mean, you can see over here on their website, they got all the different modes. You got lighting, sound, time-lapse, HDR, lasers. It's all controllable by your phone. Really cool. It'll do lightning, too, as well, if you want to do storms and lightning and all that stuff. But these devices are really cool if you're looking just to kind of like trigger your camera when you can't be around it, or you just don't want to stand outside and wait for a lightning bolt to hit, or wait for that animal to cross in front of something.
Or that bullet to go through the apple.
The bullet to go through the apple, exactly. So I mean, really cool stuff. And a lot of times we have these things, we just use them for the bulb press, and there's so many more modes on these things that we can use. So something.
I'm just curious, Erik, how much does something like that run?
So this one, which is $20.
Wow.
So this one that I have, the Pixel. Now the MyOps, what starts doing crazy stuff, is $200.
The laser?
Yeah.
$200.
But I mean, it does a lot of stuff. It's crazy what that thing will do.
All right, I got to tell you about my thing tomorrow. So I got a new class coming out tomorrow, and I'm excited about it. So you may have heard me talk about this on the grid before. So I wanted to do a class, now that I've switched over to ProPhoto, I wanted to do a class that was more intermediate level lighting. So I've done a class where I did, here's how to use a ProPhoto light. I went through the whole thing with the B1X, and here's how to use the remote. And then I did another class on location where I went on location, did all kinds of different portraits and stuff. In this case, we rented a beautiful theater and a classic old theater, and we photographed a ballerina in the dressing room, getting ready to go on stage, and we brought a white scrim in, and I did some more advanced things. What I think is cool about the class, it's cool for you and embarrassing for me, is you see all of the awful things that go into making one of these shots. So in my mind, I thought, okay, I'm going to be in this theater, and I've been in the theater before, so I know what it looks like, and I want to put the ballerina here, and I want to try this, and I want to try that. And you get there, and you set up the lights, and it looks like crud, and it's just awful. So you see the entire process of me starting off with a horrible starting place where you're like, how is he going to fix this? This looks terrible. And you see it slowly get better and get better and get better until it's fixed, until we come up with a nice image. And there's some really cool things in the class. We do some really interesting things, but I think what you'll get the most from it is seeing where the starting point is and how rough it gets. And then the decisions that you make along the way, like, well, what if we try this? What if we move the light? Why don't we try this? and then that doesn't work, and then you're like, crud, maybe we can try this. It's like you're being a detective, but what I think it'll do is I think it'll help you in all kinds of ways. It's a really neat class. We came out with some great images, but it was not easy to get there. You're going to see it warts and all, so that's the way I wanted it to be done, so you see the whole thing. You're also going to see something that is in the class where we got burned by an unlikely thing. We kept trying. There was something happening. I don't want to spoil it, but there's something going really wrong in this shoot. And when you find out what it was, we were completely fooled by it, and it changed everything. And it ate up a lot. It probably ate up an hour of trying to fix a problem. And then when we later found out what it was, I actually told the class, okay, remember that thing that we had such trouble with? Here's what it really was. And you're going to go, are you kidding me? It was just one of those things. So I think it's going to be a great learning experience and you don't have to have ProPhoto lights to watch the class, because it's really on solving problems.
But if you had ProPhoto lights, it'd be really cool.
Yeah, well, if you have ProPhoto lights, well, then kaboom. But I don't really go into so much.
They're awesome lights.
They're the best lights I've ever used, hands down. They're the greatest. However, all that being said, I tell people from the beginning, look, this is an intermediate level class, so you kind of need to understand lighting. Like, if you need to learn how to run this stuff, go watch my beginner's class. This is intermediate level lighting. I'm talking to you as though you understand, what a lighting trigger does and what a modeling light is. I'm assuming that you know all that stuff. So that's why I'm calling it an intermediate. I'm talking to you as if we're a couple of buddies out there when you know your stuff. So that's what it is. It comes out tomorrow, I think.
Yep.
So I'm very excited about it, and thanks to the folks for ProPhoto for making such awesome lights and me getting to use them. I love,
slick. They're so slick.
Love them.
Well-designed product, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a question that we didn't talk about. So Rick was asking about triggering on a particular time or a particular event. And what you're doing there with any of these triggers, like if you're receiving, this one will go up to 99 hours of a delay. This one will go, I've days in the future.
Until a squirrel walks by and breaks the laser beam.
But what happens with these is your camera goes in standby mode. So what you're going to want to do is where you go into your setting and set it to sleep after a certain amount of time. So I set mine to usually like 30 seconds or 1 minute, whatever the shortest is. And then that goes to sleep. Then what's going to happen is either one of these triggers, when it's set to capture that event, it sends out a pulse that wakes up your camera. So what that does is just sends out a pulse about 5 seconds before it's actually going to trigger the event, wakes up the camera starts up, and then it starts triggering the event. So that's really all it is. And to show, like, I've had one of these cameras with one of these set up last 5 days on standby mode and still trigger.
Wow.
So,
it
probably could have even gone longer, but I've had it last 5 days because I've had a launch that scrubbed and then scrubbed and scrubbed and it just sat out there for 5 days and still triggered 3 of them.
It's crazy. So you guys probably remember we had Paul the Cobra Man Cobra on.
Yeah.
So what Paul does is he lives up in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he sets up these musical instruments. So he's in the musical instrument repair business. He repairs, very nice musical instruments, not guitars, real instruments.
Fancy.
Yeah, like, bassoons and oboes and stuff like that. Anyway, saxophones, real instruments. However, because he has access to some of these broken instruments sometimes, he sets up in his backyard a French horn, and he puts like little snacks there, and animals will come, and he gets these great pictures of the animals like they're playing the instruments. It's really, some of them are just fantastic. And he sells all kinds of like calendars and stuff. His stuff is really good. He needs that laser beam. He needs that beam, Eric, or the sound thing that we're like.
Yeah.
He sent me a video of him this morning out there. He's out there shooting, and he's got flashes set up.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, because not only that, it even has like proximity sensors. There's other one. I'm like, you could do a bunch of
Oh yeah.
You could do some cool stuff with it.
Yeah, because number one, he's standing outside in the freezing cold. A lot of his shots are in the snow. I'm like, dude, you need to be sitting inside with like some hot cocoa. I love that. I got to get one of those. That's really neat. And my birthday's in July.
It's great.
Eric, my birthday's in July.
I'll get you one.
July.
I got a bunch of them. So
He probably does have a bunch of them.
I do have.
Hey, I
if
don't
there's
want
one
some
disease
used
I
crap,
have,
Eric. Don't try to
triggers.
slop some used crap on me.
Yep.
All right, I got to give one last one, and we got to go because we're already over time. But my last one would be, you're inside, but you can do this. This is one of those things that you can practice in your own home or in your backyard, anywhere you want. If you're not already doing this, learn to shoot and stitch panos. Panos are awesome. And they're so much fun, and they're so easy to do. I'm going to give you the only rule you have to follow. There's only one rule. You can hand hold. You can do whatever you want to make a pretty good pano, because of the way Lightroom and Photoshop will process it for you. If anything's a little off, it does a really good job of fixing it. The only rule you really have to go by is overlap each frame by 20%. So for example, if I was going to shoot the studio, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't go click, 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 because there's no way those 3 disparate frames will come into one long panorama. I would just do this. Click, 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 click. That's it. I'm not counting and calculating, is it 20, is it 30%? Just make them overlap. As long as it overlaps a little bit as you're moving, just go click, click, 6 or 7 frames. Man, Lightroom will put them together like that. It'll fill in the edges. It's so good. It does such a great job. And once you start doing a few of them, you realize how easy they are, you'll do them forever. You will love it. Now, it's a little bit of camera technique, a tiny little bit of Lightroom or Camera Raw and Photoshop, whichever you want. But it's built right in. You just go, here's the 7 images I took. Make it merge to a panorama. It brings up a window and says, like this? And there's your images stitched together. You're like, yeah, like that.
Like that.
Really, really easy. All right, we've completely run out of time.
And that's a good thing for the Platypod. Platypod is like awesome for panos.
Oh yeah, because the Platypod puts the rotating head on the top of the ball.
And it rotates in perfect.
Rotates it perfect.
It's
awesome. Too perfect.
But yeah,
and
we've
honestly,
run out of time.
That's one of the things I want the Platypod for. I shoot a lot of panos.
Yeah, that's it.
I want that Platypod.
There's a lot of things that it's really cool at. Especially the other one that I'm looking forward to is I always have the creep, where you lock it in.
Yeah, it does not creep.
And
it locks
creeps,
tight.
but this one doesn't.
You know what else? It just looks cool.
It does look cool.
All the cool kids will have one. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thanks so much to all of our sponsors. Next week, we're still going to have the grid, but I'll be at my house. Erik will be at his house. Oh, also, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm wearing a hat today. One of the reasons I'm wearing a hat is I haven't had a haircut in like a long time. Now, my hair grows very fast, but not in the places you'd always want it to. So unfortunately, I have what my wife would call televangelist hair. I've got like more hair than I should have for my age. It's just like crazy all over the place. I can imagine over the next few weeks, my hair is going to get ludicrous. Because I'm not going to go to the hair salon.
You already wear a lot of hats. Now you just got to wear more hats.
Yeah, it's going to get crazy though, man. It's like ludicrous. You ought to see it in the morning. It's like a swamp. Anyway, but that's where we're at. I imagine, I'm going to have like a beard, like you'll see Erik, and he'll have really long hair, dreads and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're just letting it go. We're being natural, as nature intended. And we should do it. We should do the show naked. What do you think?
No.
No, okay. If you had said yes, I'd have been in. I'd have done it for sure. But nope, Erik said no. So anyway, don't look for the nude episode next week. Just look for the hairy episode.
Comments are getting pretty good right now. I'm going to be honest.
Don't read the comments, Erik. It's not the time for that. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that you stay safe. We wish you good health. Stay inside. Stay away from people because people are awful. They're terrible. They're disease-laden. Stay away from everyone except for Erik Kuna. If you see him, run up and hug him because you know he's healthy. Look at that healthy smile. There's no way he's got anything.
No.
Anyway, but thank you guys. Take good care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we'll catch you guys next Wednesday.
See you next week.
And hopefully Monday, too, on our webcast. So tell your friends we got a really fun project, and have your computer or your iPad or your phone in front of you when we do this, because you're going to need to get a hold of some images. We'll talk about that. I think it's going to be really good. I'm excited about it. Next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. To all of our friends all over the world, thanks for watching. Take care. Rocket Man.